Charlie?
Mel, do we have Trustee Fowler on? Yes, we do. Great, thank you very much. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll. It is the Village Board meeting on Tuesday, March 19th. It is 7 o'clock. Holly?
Trustee Fowler?
Here.
Trustee Denges?
Here.
Trustee Whitaker?
Here.
Trustee Gallon?
Here.
Trustee Mendrick? Here. Trustee Orth?
Here.
Trustee Fowler is requesting to participate by electronic means. Trustee Fowler is unable to attend tonight's meeting due to travel required from his business. His voice needs to be identified by the rest of the board as belonging to him. Trustee Fowler is on the telephone. Trustee Fowler, you identify yourself?
Yes, this is Trustee Fowler.
Terrific, thank you very much. May I have a motion and second to approve Trustee Fowler's request to participate by telephone conference call?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Terrific, thank you. We changed our public comment policy last meeting, and I just want to make a couple of comments about our public comment. There are really several areas that the public has an opportunity to comment. First, we will be asking if there are any members of the public who wish to request that Village Board remove any item from the consent agenda. The consent agenda items are routine businesses that are not ordinarily discussed. The consent agenda is item 2 on your printed agenda. If no one removes an item from the consent agenda, we will approve without discussion. If there is an item that you would like to request to be removed from the consent agenda, a member of the Village Board and a member of the Village Board agrees to remove it, then the Village Board will discuss that item, and you'll be allowed to be heard at that time. Second part of public comment is to receive comments from members of the public on a matter of village business that is not on the agenda at all. If you wish to speak regarding an item on the agenda, which are listed as action items on the agenda, please be patient and wait for that item to be called, and you will be heard from then. With that in mind, let me first ask if there is anyone here tonight that wants to request the board remove an item from business from the consent agenda. If so, raise your hand. Seeing none, now let me ask if there's any member of the public wishing to be heard on any topic of village business that is not on tonight's agenda at all. If so, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized and you can approach the podium. Please.
Kathy Estabrook. I'm just kind of confused as to why we don't have someone who actually takes minutes, like records the minutes like we do at the planning and zoning meetings. The paraphrased minutes fall short many times, and I also don't think it's fair for Holly to make the decision on what should be put in those minutes and not put in those minutes. And I think it's important that we have a complete record of our minutes.
Thank you.
The difference between a zoning hearing and a public meeting like that is those are evidentiary hearings. Witnesses are sworn in and testimony is being taken. So because that'll be, that record can become evidence in a lawsuit or other litigation about zoning, the testimony is actually taken down and very detailed because that's the record on appeal. Here, the minutes should fairly represent what people are saying, should be accurate. And I appreciate your comments about them perhaps needing in some areas more detail to them. The only thing I'm just trying to say is that in terms of a zoning case, it's much more like a court record than the minutes of a public meeting is all. But I know that you've shared with us some corrections to the minutes and some things I've needed to correct and others, and I appreciate that. And yeah, it's just that's if you asked that what was the difference, and that's the reason for it. But still, your point is taken about making sure that the minutes of these proceedings are accurate and inclusive as well.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, sorry,
Go ahead.
I'm not talking from a legal aspect or anything. I'm just saying that when we record the audio for these meetings, how long is that up on the village website?
In perpetuity.
So I think if there's ever an issue, obviously if someone has been misquoted, I get it. And you corrected the record and it was done. But I think if, that's another thing too, is if there is ever an issue, there's a true public record, so to speak, with the audio and now video recordings of the meetings.
And I would just like to say, I think Holly has proven herself to be a great professional, and I do trust her judgment on a wide range of things. So I just want to stick up for Holly and say I think she does a really good job of capturing what we're doing here. And sometimes it's and sometimes it's a lot. So Holly, thank you.
Melissa, how long are the audio or the visual are going to be available for people to see?
They'll also be up in perpetuity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. We have a proposed budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2024 and ending April 30th, 2025. By state statute, we have to have a public hearing, so I'm declaring this public hearing open. There is a presentation of the proposed budget. It's online and also, I think, on the desk. The board has studied it. Any public comment on the 24-25 proposed budget? Public comment. Okay, I declare this public hearing closed. May I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing? Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
Trustee Denges,
Yes.
Trustee Whitaker,
Yes.
Trustee Gallen,
Yes.
Trustee Mendrick,
Yes.
Trustee Orth.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Consent agenda items. Are there any items that any board member would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, will the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
There are 2 items on the consent agenda. The first is to approve the report of proceedings from the February 20, 2024 and the February 26, 2024 village board meetings. The second is to approve the bills and disbursements from the February 1st to February 29th, 2024 for a grand total of $632,244.72.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Thank you, Holly. Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the board? Holly, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
Trustee Denges,
Yes.
Trustee Whitaker,
Yes.
Trustee Gallen,
Yes.
Trustee Mendrick,
Yes.
Trustee Orth.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Next is the action items. This is something I'm honored to do. I have a motion to approve an employment agreement with Patrick Brennan for the position of village manager.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Tim, when you have a second, do we just want to give a little background on this, or do you think it's self-explanatory?
Well, I think it's self-explanatory, other than the fact that I've known Mr. Brennan for some time, and he's immediately leapt in mind as one of the, somebody who would be perfect for Northfield. And I'm, as I'm so happy that the board unanimously agreed in that. He has tremendous experience that gives him a really a unique depth of understanding of your operations. For those that don't know, he started his career in Ohio as a police officer for 14 years, while he also earned his master's in public administration. I think he rose to the rank of sergeant, if I'm not, thank you for the nod. Okay, that was correct. And eventually became an assistant to the village manager in Highland Park, Illinois, and then later on deputy village manager. And for now some considerable period of time, he's been Kenilworth's manager. And I was pleased that our paths intersected when I was Wilmette's manager. We were able to work together on some important infrastructure work that benefited both Kenilworth and Wilmette, as Kenilworth had the challenge of leading the community through decommissioning of their water plant and essentially purchasing their water wholesale from Wilmette afterwards. And aside from the business aspect of that, there's also a real leadership challenge with that, because it's part of the community's sense of itself. And to help guide the community through that and reach a very successful conclusion that we're all wondering how their referendum will turn out tonight in terms of what the residents there would like to do with this unique recreational opportunity that they have in the lakefront now. That's a tremendous accomplishment, as well as all the green infrastructure and stormwater management projects that he shepherded through. You'll find that he understands public safety and the needs for those departments very, very well. Also is excellent on infrastructure and business development, which I think are skills that you're really going to like. I couldn't be happier to be handing over all this to somebody as well qualified as he is. And I know it wasn't easy in the sense that the village board received so many highly qualified applicants, more than 30 from all over. And it was not an easy choice between the people that you had, all of whom were very highly qualified and could do a good job. But I'm very happy for the village and happy for Patrick as well.
Thank you, Tim. Any comments or questions from the board?
I just wanted to also reiterate some of Tim's comments, that I personally was thrilled that we had as many candidates to choose from, and that it was a really hard decision when we came down to the last 3 candidates in the second interviews. And so the fact that Patrick came to the top and was unanimously approved at that point by this board says a lot about him and how he interviewed and how he interacted with us. So I'm really looking forward to his tenure here at the village.
Any other comments from the board?
Yeah, just a quick one. We are very excited for Patrick to start, and I think I'd be remiss to say, a little sad that Tim will be leaving us as well. He's been great, but very excited. I think the board probably shares that sentiment.
Anybody else?
And Tim, we have you for one more meeting, right? Okay, so I'll hold my powder on that. But I do want to say, the public made it pretty clear to us what they were looking for and had a lot of expectations. And I'd like to compliment this board on working really hard on this. There were a lot of late-night meetings and a lot of conversation and a lot of debate. And I think the village will be proud of us, but the proof will be, I think, in Patrick. And I think one of the things he did that distinguished himself was his communication skills, which I hear people in the village kind of calling out for. I mean, we've had those discussions tonight. So I am confident that Patrick is an excellent communicator, and you will all see that shortly.
Anybody else from the board?
Sure. I'm really glad that Patrick got to see a couple of our big business leaders in town. And I think it's going to be good for them to hear what we're saying about what you tonight. But I think one of the most empowering things of the whole interview process wasn't the fact that we ended up with Patrick. That's a great thing. But I think really was almost the team building exercise amongst the board of working together, vetting candidates, and ironically, the entire board, which is something that has never happened in GovHR's history of manager interviews, was the top 3 candidates were all the 3 candidates that every single one of us sitting up here picked. And I think that's a testament to, I hate to bring up the past, but I think it still shows that our thoughts, why we're all sitting here, why Todd's calling in tonight, is the fact that we all truly do care about our community, we care about our residents, and really we want what's best to make Northfield as special as it is. And I think that whole exercise of meeting after meeting, night after night, and getting to the point where there weren't enough Diet Cokes in the cooler to help us go on for the evening, but just the fact that we all came together and we could all anonymously but unanimously pick the top 3 candidates was a really cool thing. So with that being said, welcome.
Well said, Tom.
And I'd like to thank Acting Manager Frenzer for all his work and his continued work. And I know we have him for a little bit longer. And I kidded with him about maybe doing a little consulting here and there for us, since he seems to be so good. But he's shaking his head, so we're trying to draw him back in every once in a while. When because he's a great voice of reason and a great expert in a lot of stuff with the village. And Patrick, welcome. We were able to work together in another community prior to this, so I'm looking forward to working with you in this role. And I think you'll do a great job. And welcome to Northfield.
Any comments or questions from the public? Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
trustee Dungus,
Yes.
trustee Whitaker,
Yes.
trustee Orth,
Yes. Oh, sorry.
trustee Gallen,
Yes.
trustee Mendrick,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. So I'm just going to take a second here. It's my great honor
Lose on my mind.
to introduce Patrick Brennan.
Always. We're shuffling a little bit. There we go. All right, get together. Get closer, guys. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Patrick, there's no easy way to transition to the business of the village. We're going to now talk about our municipal storm separator system.
Sorry if it's a disappointment, everybody. It's hard to follow that up.
Carolina Cho with us from Gould Hamilton. So thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
Got a PowerPoint presentation for us?
Yeah, so this is just this is our yearly educational presentation. So it's not just for the board, it's for everyone attending. The intention is just to educate the public about the separate storm sewer system. And this permit is through an Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. So the intention of the permit is to keep our stormwater clean and also mitigate any pollution issues that we may find while complying with what the permit contains. So if you'll, I have my own clicker here. So a couple examples of pollution that we find in our storm sewers. Quite often it's soap suds, oil sheens, things like twigs, other large sticks, leaves that will clog up the drains and prevent them from functioning correctly. And then also erosional issues and other structural problems like broken pipes or a pipe that might be bent. Or things that just aren't functioning correctly are things that we look for. So just to backtrack a little bit, we do inspections. Well, actually, the village does their own inspections, and we kind of compile all the information and send it in a report to the EPA yearly. So a little bit more about these inspections. Things that we're looking for are odors, color of water, vegetation, so if there's excessive vegetation, it could prevent water from flowing out of that pipe correctly. And then also, technically inspections are supposed to be done in dry weather conditions, AKA there has not been a recent storm event. That way, if there is a flow coming from the pipe, we know that it's not from recent rain, and instead there's some bigger problem, because technically there really shouldn't be a constant flow out of any pipe. Depending on the situation, sometimes there's exceptions, but that's the general rule. Oh.
I think Mel might be rebooting.
That's odd. I looked at the one I sent and it had 6 slides, so it should have 6, but if worst comes to worst, I mean, you guys catch a break and. Well, there's just a few other points that I can. But there's just a few other things. So generally, the permit is reissued every 5 years, so they like to revise it, add a couple things, take some things away, reword things. It was supposed to be reissued back in 2021 and has not yet been. So they say on their website, EPA's website, that they're going to reissue it this month. They said the same thing last year. So who's to say whether it will actually be released? If it is, there's a stormwater management program plan that we have put together for the village, stating that you fully intend to comply with the permit and everything that it requires. So that would be something that we would revise upon the reissuance of the permit, if it ever is to be reissued. So that's generally what I was going to say. There's no pollution issues within the village that we have found thus far this year, so nothing to be concerned for. So
Great. Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Carolina, thanks for being here again this year. I do appreciate it. I know we had a little delay, but thanks for your presentation. Sorry about the glitch.
Oh, that's okay.
Got it fixed.
That's okay.
Very, very good. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the public on this topic? And there is no roll call on this, is that correct? Correct. Okay, very good. Action item 5, may I have a motion to approve an ordinance amending Appendix D, Fees and Fines, Article 1, Water and Sewer Service Fees for the Village Code to reflect a 2.5% change to the water and sewer rates effective May 1st, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Kathleen, can you give us a little background on this?
Yes, I can. President Lummis. The proposed 24-25 budget calls for the implementation of a 2.5% increase in the water sewer rate. The proposed increase is necessary due to increase in operational equipment and water procurement from the Village of Winnetka. Now, if approved, the new rates will take effect May 1st, 2024. The water sewer rate will increase from $11.30 per 100 cubic feet to $11.58 per 100 cubic feet. The water-only rate will increase from $8.10 per 100 cubic feet to $8.30 per 100 cubic feet. The water sewer rate for commercial properties outside the village will increase from $9.61 per 100 cubic feet to $9.85 per 100 cubic feet. The minimum water and sanitary sewer rate would increase from $41.43 to $42.47 per month. The minimum water-only rate would increase from $29.70 to $30.44 per month, and the sanitary sewer-only rate would increase from $46.71 to $47.88 per month.
Thank you, Kathleen. Any questions or comments from the board?
I actually do. And I had a couple questions from residents about why we were raising our water rates again. And obviously, it's the cost of doing business. But I did stumble across, after those questions were asked, about Illinois American Water, which is a company that provides water to other towns. And they're raising their water rates effective January 1st, anywhere between 17 and 43.8% for their customers. So just putting it in perspective along with the sewer, you're looking at a total of 23 to 53% increase in water sewer bills by 2025.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Trustee Whitaker. What we're seeing is that virtually all the communities are raising their water. The cost of producing water is going up, clean water. There's we're seeing some chemicals that are appearing, PSAFs, that some very hard to detect parts per billion, and it's going to get more expensive to filter and provide safe and clean drinking water. And we buy our water, I think the village knows this, most residents do, from the village of Winnetka. Tom, thanks for bringing that to our attention.
It was interesting and
Yeah.
ironic.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the public?
Well, I do want to mention that, Winnetka increased our rates 3.4%, and one of the things that helped us keep our rates below that was that we had a lot of interest income this year. So we only had to increase it 2.5%. A lot of it was we had, I think, like even this year, 167,000, I think, at this point in the year as compared to same time last year, 44,000 in interest income. So we've had a dramatic increase in interest income. That helps tremendously keeping our rates down.
Thank you, Kathleen. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
Trustee Dunges,
Yes.
Trustee Whitaker,
Yes.
Trustee Gallen,
Yes.
Trustee Mendrick,
Yes.
Trustee Orth,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. Action item 6, may I have a motion to approve a resolution authorizing submittal of an Invest in Cook, in quotes, grant relative to the installation of accessible sidewalk ramps along Bosworth Lane.
Motion to approve.
Steve, can you give us just a little background on this?
You bet. Thank you, President Longmas. At its recent budget workshop, the village board directed staff to include $130,807 in the fiscal 24-25 capital improvement budget for the installation of ADA curb ramps along Bosworth Lane. That amount actually represents half of the amount or of the estimated project costs. And the other half, the board directed staff to seek a grant through the Invest in Cook grant program. We are ready to submit the application for that grant at the end of this week. And one of the things we'd like to include in that application is the resolution before you indicating that the board is committed to funding its 50% share of that project.
Very good. Thank
Any
you.
questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fowler,
Yes.
Trustee Dunges,
Yes.
Trustee Whitaker,
Yes.
Trustee Gallen,
Yes.
Trustee Mendrick,
Yes.
Trustee Orth,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you, Holly. Some informational items, departmental updates. Tim, do you have anything from the village manager's office?
Just two brief items. First, I just wanted to note that Chief Nystran had to leave due to an emergency that his department's dealing with, so that's no disrespect intended. That's why he needed to dash out. So hopefully that isn't something too awful. The other thing I wanted to do is keep a promise I made to one of the residents, that would be Kathy Estabrook, who at the February regular board meeting, as we were talking about Hap Road and traffic circles, as we often do, and she reached out to me afterwards because I think I did an unfair job or unfair treatment of Cook County in that. As I listened to my remarks afterwards, after she talked to me, it was I was clearly leaving the impression that the county somehow did this to the village, or that the village was not some sort of equal partner in this, and that's not fair to the county at all, and not fair to the people who are listening. The county's worked very well with the village. The county's been an excellent partner to us, both on this project and with what we're trying to do to arrange supplemental parking for downtown. And while it's the county's road, it is ultimately their decision. They do definitely believe a roundabout is the best solution here. The fact is that there were multiple public meetings and public open houses, and the village was engaged on this, and both, not just the county, it was Illinois Department of Transportation and the village, and with consulting with its public safety professionals, came to the conclusion that the roundabout was the correct way to go. So to the extent I was unfair or ungenerous to the county, I apologize to those who are listening and apologize to the county as well. That's all.
Thank you, Tim. Community Development and Building, Steve Gutierrez.
Thank you. Mr. President, on April 8th, the Architectural Commission will be reviewing some lighting and landscaping improvements that are planned in conjunction with a parking lot project that New Trier is planning this summer. They're asking for some variations to the lighting heights, as well as landscape, installation of certain landscape islands, and for the width of the landscape perimeter, landscape areas that are required under our code. The lighting is really meant to provide a much more functional and efficient lighting system than they have now. And the landscape components that they're seeking variations to would essentially maintain as many parking spaces as they have now, which is very important to the neighborhood, especially during large events that, such as football games and whatnot that are held there. So that will be going before the Architectural Commission for their review. This is for landscaping and lighting variations. The Architectural Commission makes that, they do review those and makes the final decision on those types of variations. Just one last item. I talked to the operator of the block cannabis dispensary that's being constructed still at 116 Waukegan Road. They're very close to completing their interior build-out and getting their final signage installed. They do, and they're also going through their very apparently involved final state approval process for this site. They have a license, but they have to dot the i's and cross the t's for this site. And they hope to be opening as soon as possible, but no later than the end of May at this point.
Excellent.
Sorry, just to clarify, so they have been issued officially a license?
By the state.
In order for that license to be valid, the state has to come in and check off boxes and say, you're good to go.
Yeah, we just filled out some forms today, as a matter of fact. They asked us to fill out some forms, including the enabling ordinance for their special use, for our zoning requirements, our adult use cannabis dispensary regulations, and so there's a lot of red tape that they still have to go through, which is really, again, it's indicative of how carefully regulated this industry and this location will be.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks.
Any other questions for Steve? Finance Monthly Report, Kathleen Morley.
Thank you, President Lugmas. Okay, so the financial report before you represents 75% of the fiscal year, 9 months. The general fund revenues are, with the exception of licenses and permits and fines and forfeitures, are performing better than budget. So the revenues right now are $9.3 million, which are $817,000 above budget. Regarding the expenses, as mentioned previously, we've had a number of unexpected expenses this year. So as the year winds up, we'll be doing a budget amendment. We don't know the final numbers at this point, but as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, we'll put together a budget amendment. Regarding the water fund, overall revenues for the 9 months are $3.6 million, which is $442,000 higher than budget. $85,000 of that positive variance is attributable to the interest income earned on our laddered investments. As I mentioned previously, this interest income helps to keep our water rate increases down. On the expense side of the water fund, excluding the capital projects which are delayed and rebudgeted to next fiscal year, all the other expenses for the water are coming in $42,000 below budget, or 1.4% within budget. Let's see, the investments for the village are right now at $16.6 million. They're laddered, and between now and the end of fiscal '25, we'll have 7 investments that will be maturing, which will amount to $3.4 million. And 6 out of those 7 investments were our earlier investments, so they're around 3%. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to put those in, probably hopefully closer to 5%. So those are right around 3%, most of them. And right now, our year-to-date interest earned, with all our interest, we allocate that to the general fund, the water fund, and other various funds. So fiscal year-to-date, we've earned $495,183. Compared that to the previous year, that was $179,428. So we've increased our interest earnings $315,000 over the previous year. Our budget for the entire fiscal year was $358,000, so we're better than budget for the whole year by $136,000, 9 months into the year. And let's see, one of the projects that we're working on that I've mentioned previously is this Vertex One water portal project. We implemented our smart meters last year, and we'll have this Vertex One water portal, we can say it, water portal, hopefully should be by the end of April. So that will allow our customers to be able to see their usage on an app, and get alerts if there's any kind of unusual usage or any kind of leaking. There'll be a second phase to that where they'll be able to get their bills on their app and then pay on the app. So that'll be phase 2. And that's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for Kathleen? We have Mike Hutensky, Deputy Chief Hutensky, with us today for a police report. Thank you, Mike, for being here.
Thank you, President Longmiss. Let me just apologize on behalf of the chief. He's feeling under the weather. He apologizes he couldn't be here tonight, but thank you for letting me attend in his place. We're excited to announce our Board of Police Commissioners has approved hire of a new officer. She will be getting sworn in tomorrow. She's joining us from the Skokie Police Department, and we've heard rave reviews about her. We're excited to welcome her aboard. Unfortunately, the timing didn't work for us to have her here tonight, but we certainly will have her here at the April meeting so everyone can meet her. So we're looking forward to that. And just in terms of update, several of our officers participate in the North Taft Burglary Task Force. Recently, they made arrest of 4 burglary suspects who have been wreaking havoc in northern Illinois as a whole. So that was a major accomplishment for them.
I happened to see, Mike, and I don't want to throw a curveball to you, that our flock readers picked up a stolen vehicle, I guess. Was that in Northfield, or was that one of our adjoining communities? I know that there was an arrest that was made, or at least somebody was apprehended.
So that was a different case. That the flock cameras have been extremely helpful, not only to our investigations here, but to neighboring communities on vehicles traveling through. Yeah, they've been a huge benefit.
You know, they've only been in use for a couple months so far, and they've
made a big difference. Absolutely,
very helpful. That's terrific.
I was going to say the same thing. It's crazy, all the police reports that you read about how the flock cameras have, like you said, cars entering towns. I think there was a stolen car with people in it that were headed to commit another crime. And just to thank Mike, who spearheaded the project for the police department, because it's turned out to be an invaluable tool for the police to use.
Any other questions for Deputy Chief Hutensky? Thank you again, Mike, for being here. Special board projects. There has been some progress. Sidewalk Committee, we talked about today. Anything more from that there? Mid-block crossing, any progress there, Charlie?
Moving forward still, nothing new to report, but we're getting closer.
Great, great. Nothing really to report There will be something coming forward, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks with the library campus, but nothing to report today. With that, may I have a motion? Go ahead, sorry, Tracy.
I just wanted to add one thing, and I just recently learned that Trustee Whitaker has been named, is it President of Red Center? What's your official title? Chairman of the board. Oh, that's even more august. And anyway, we hadn't talked about it here, but I just wondered if you could give me a brief synopsis of what that means to us and to your life.
A lot of work. So Red Center is the regional emergency dispatch who is the prime dispatch for fire and EMS here in Northfield. If you do call 911, currently the call will go to Glenview, who will transfer the call to Red if you need an ambulance or a fire emergency. And I see Ms. Estabrook putting her thumb down. Good news, because I'm glad you brought that up, and this is kind of more in an operational thing, but I think it's good for everybody to know. Red Center, along with Glenview Dispatch, along with Cook County, along with Northwest Central, their CADs are all going to be able to talk to each other now. So instead of having to make a phone call and transfer call, it'll self-populate to whatever center it's supposed to go to. But Red Center is responsible for dispatching 13 different towns total, with representatives from each board as a member of the board of directors. And Red Center also dispatches MABUS, which is the mutual aid box alarm system, who handles significant events, whether it's hazmat, EMS, or fire in our area. So the chair resigned. I was nominated by the board of directors and elected to be chairman. So it's been an honor and a privilege. It's been a difficult time because there's some restructuring going on, and 10 to 12 meetings a month between the village of Northfield and Red Center's been time consuming, and I let Trustee Galen know, and I will say the sidewalk committee, I helped find people for the sidewalk committee, but I don't deserve any other kudos for that, except for Matt's pretty much has done it all himself. So I give Matt full credit for the sidewalk committee. So, you know, it's been an honor and a privilege, and it's been a rough start there, but it'll be all good, and I love doing it, so it's all good.
Well, thank you for your service, Trustee Whitaker, I appreciate it.
And I just have one more thing. I'm sorry. I just wanted to especially thank Melissa and Holly and Steve and Tim. Barnaby and I put everyone through their paces in making this announcement to the community about our new village manager. And I just wanted to thank everybody for helping get it over the finish line. We already have had an article on the Record North Shore. There's also one in the Chicago Tribune that just came up during our meeting. And we did our best to notify boards, commissions, school boards, park boards, everybody else, to just give them a heads up that this was happening. And then tomorrow there will be a blast email that goes out to the community-wide email list, and an additional correspondence with our business community as well. So thank you to everybody who helped get all this over the finish line.
Thank you.
And I think a big thanks needs to go to
Trustee Mendrick.
Trustee Mendrick and Trustee Ginges for
Yep.
what they've done, and their, you know, I say this is what makes a board so unique, is all the different talents that people bring to the table, whether it's Trustee Fowler in real estate, or, you know, Trustee Galen with his legal experience, these two with their backgrounds in marketing and communications, and then public servants and your background. So I think it all plays off really well on the goodness for the village. So thank you two as well it's a lot of work. So thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. May I have a motion and second to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody, for being here.